Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Parent Education Series sponsored by Konick and Associates. My name is Dr. Lisa Konick, and I'm a clinical psychologist and founder of Konick and Associates, which is a family behavioral health center, and we offer psychological assessment services as well. And this is our first segment of Ask an Expert Parent Education Series, and we're going to be talking about post-high school career and vocational planning today. And I have with me Tricia Sommerfeld from the Career College at the Autism Turning Point Autism Foundation, and also Kiersten Lira, Youth Program Specialist with the Parents Alliance Program. And they're going to be talking to us about their exciting collaboration and how they support young adults in terms of vocational planning. And we're hoping, the title of our talk today is Autism Career Connection, Preparing Adults for Employment. So ladies, welcome to our series. I know we had some technical problems, so this is our second attempt to share this information with you. We're very excited to have you share with us information about vocational support and career planning for individuals, particularly those with the autism, on the autism spectrum. I'm going to be introducing both of these wonderful ladies to you and have them talk better about their project. Tricia has worked in the special education field, specializing in autism since 2013, and she has been at Turning Point Autism Foundation since November 2016. She has worked in the therapeutic day school classrooms, decreasing maladaptive behavior and increasing independence and skill acquisition. She's also worked with career college students on independent living, social communication, and employability skills so that they can utilize a job they choose based on personal interests and skill repertoire. Tricia has developed a curriculum for job training and skill acquisition so that students may be prepared for the demands of a workforce, including those task, social, and emotional demands. This year, she's working with Parents Alliance employment partners to better develop training to prepare students for what they may encounter and to better select placement in a job they like so that employment is maintained. Thank you, Tricia. I know we're very excited to interact with Career College. We have a number of students in our practice that have gone through the Career College and really have wonderful skill development and employability after their programming there. And Kiersten is also joining us today. I'm very delighted to know that the two of you are partnering. Kiersten has been with the Parents Alliance Employment Project for over 4 years and has successfully led both the in-school WIOA funded project search program, as well as the out-of-school Inspired by Ability program for the last 2 years. Kiersten holds a bachelor's degree in health sciences with emphasis in rehabilitation services from Northern Illinois University. She's also a certified employment support professional, which is for professionals who provide employment services to individuals with disabilities by assisting them to obtain and maintain competitive employment within the community. Kiersten also holds a substitute teacher certification for DuPage County area from the Illinois State Board of Education and holds a certification in Adult Mental Health First Aid USA. Welcome, Kiersten. Tell us a little bit about the programming that is offered by both of your organizations and how this wonderful partnership is helping families in the community.
Well, Turning Point and Parents Alliance this is our first year partnering together. And so we kind of combine both of our specialties. So Turning Point is really good at training and behavior, social communication, training independent living. So we have that piece of it for the training. And then Parents Alliance does a phenomenal job with placing students. So they do a great job at placing them in jobs that are willing to work with those students, that are flexible and that are willing to hire individuals that are on the spectrum or with any disability.
Great. So Kiersten, do you have anything to add about how your programming is supporting the families as well? How is the Parents Alliance Employment Project? Tell us a little bit about that.
So Parents Alliance Employment Project, we are a supported employment agency. So we focus strictly on employment for individuals with disabilities. We start from from interviews to going to orientations with clients, placing clients on the job, to job coaching and job support to clients. So we kind of do everything employment. So it's great in the sense of working with Turning Point, because we can take all of those different factors that come into employment and bring that with Turning Point and all of their training that they have preparing individuals for employment. So it's kind of like a power program right now, because we're able to bring both those specialties in and create this amazing opportunity for our families.
You know, and one of the things that our practice does, we do work a lot with individuals on the spectrum and individuals with special needs, but we also work with, you know, the individuals that are really just looking for that transition out of high school. So I think that some of the tips and resources and discussion that we're going to have can be applicable for high school students or young adults that do not necessarily have special needs, but particularly those on the spectrum or with special needs will benefit from some of the information that we'll be sharing with you today. And we're going to post some of the resources at the end of this talk. They'll be available on our Facebook page, and also we'll put them on our website as well. And we'll make sure we get your contact information for families who are interested in learning more about these programs. So some of the questions that we've had, and as you know, as working with a lot of individuals and families, people are looking for supports, particularly during this time of social distancing. It's difficult to understand how to find employment, how to search, and how to interview. So what are the skills that are needed for adults, particularly those on the autistic spectrum, who are considering entering the workforce, and how can they develop these skills? That's one of the questions I think would be good to hear a little bit more about.
Yeah, for sure. So when we train students, we make sure that they have all the skills that employers are looking for, or at least have been exposed to them. So one of the more important skills that employers are looking for is that time management piece. So if I give you something to do, can you do it in a certain amount of time? Or if I give you a to-do list for the day, are you able to keep track of what you're doing and finish the job and then come back and ask for more? The other thing that people, especially employers, are looking for is that self-awareness piece. Do you know what you like? Do you know what you don't like? Do you understand your strengths, what you're really good at? Do you understand your weaknesses, what you need to work on? Using those coping skills. A lot of the people that we serve have high levels of stress and anxiety, and that's totally normal for any job seeker. So are you able to understand what you're feeling? Are you able to understand what you need to do or what you need help with? That self-advocacy piece is also huge. Can you ask for help? Can you tell somebody what you need or how they can help you? Using professional and appropriate communication. A lot of people struggle with this as is. So adding somebody that's on the autism spectrum, just helping them to learn how to communicate effectively and appropriately. And then also that social skills aspect, because no matter what job you have, you're on a team, and within that team, you need to socialize appropriately. So with Turning Point's training, we do this by using a BST model. So that is behavioral skills training. So what that model does is it takes a bunch of different elements and combines it into an effective training piece. So we do instruction first, then demonstration. So I'll demonstrate the skill. Then the students get to practice, and then I give them feedback. So we go through this so that they not only have practice with it, but also learn how to master that skill. So once that skill is mastered, then we move on to generalization. So Turning Point and training here at Turning Point is a very structured and controlled environment, but sometimes you're not always going to experience the same thing in different environments, or it might be louder or smell different or look different. So we just want to make sure that our students are as prepared as possible for what they may encounter.
Great. And I know we've had students, Tricia, that have gone through the program that I've worked with in the practice that have really gained so much skill. And we can see the difference from pre to post programming with the confidence and the ability to communicate more effectively and to have a lot more self-awareness. So I know that these types of programs can be very successful for students who are to gain confidence and skill. One of the questions that has been posted to us is, what if I don't have previous work experience? And I know that this is a challenge for a lot of high school students just generally. They may not have had the opportunity to have formal work experiences. What would you ladies recommend to those students?
So Kiersten and I can both answer this question from different perspectives. So for the training piece and what we've encountered with students is you can put a lot of different work experiences on your resume. So that can be any type of volunteer. If you have given your time somewhere consistently, you can put that on your resume. Any type of training program or coursework. So whether that's a semester or just a couple classes at a community college or a training program like ACC. So those can go on your resume. Any type of schoolwork that you've accomplished, like high school, things like that, that can also go on your resume. But employers just want to know how you've been spending your time. So after high school, after you're done with your required schooling, what have you been doing?
What is ACC, Tricia? Can you?
Sorry. ACC is our Autism Career Connection. So that is the official name of the program between Parents Alliance and Turning Point.
Great. So there's skills that they've developed in those mock sites, if you will. Those practice sites can be used on their resume as an actual job experience, which makes a lot of sense because they're Kiersten, I speak a little bit more to that and what you recommend.
Absolutely. So these work sites, they're community-based work sites that are in real-life employment settings that we work with real-life employers. So in these settings, we really focus on making everything feel realistic. We treat everything as if they were hired by these employers. The students are paid for their work, but they're actually paid through our funding source from Parents Alliance. So even though the students are not actual employees of these employers, we still treat it and try and make everything as realistic as possible, as if they were real employees. Because then once they finish these work sites and then we start looking for employment, we want them to have all those skills already. That way, then when they're going into a job, they already know what their expectations will be as an employee and what those responsibilities will be.
And you have some varied types of experiences, and I know you're probably always exploring different employment partners. What are some of the types of opportunities that students might expect in some of these types of programmings?
So with our programming from Parents Alliance, and we really focus on that person-centered planning model. So we really look at what are the students interested in? You know, what skills do they have and what can they bring to these employers and what can they grow in as well as be challenged with? So we work with a variety of different industries. I always say no industry is off limits. I'm definitely always looking for new employers and definitely always, trying to find something more unique and different. But the different industries, we could go from office work to retail to food settings to we work with a lot of retirement facilities to hospitality. So really all different industries are an opportunity as long as they're realistic for the skill set for those students.
Great. And I know that you mentioned, Tricia, a moment ago that there's the students are looking, to understand their own interests, and that goodness of fit sounds like it's an important thing. And, one of the questions is, how can I explore vocational and career options if I'm not really sure what I'm interested in? Can you speak to that? How do you help students obtain that understanding?
Yeah. So for Turning Point and specifically for this program, we do a career interest inventory assessment. So what that does is we've all taken it in high school where you go through and say things like, I like alphabetizing. Yes, I agree. Somewhat, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. So we go through and have students do that because sometimes it takes something more concrete, like asking those specific questions to kind of get an idea of what they like to do. So for those that are seeking jobs, maybe starting out and don't know or are not a part of a certain program or training, there's always those assessments, and some of them are actually free online. So if you just Google career interest inventory, there's a lot of assessments that pop up that you can use to kind of start exploring those. Other things that you can do are general education classes. So if you have no idea, but you are enrolled in a community college, you can always take those gen eds and really understand and evaluate, yes, I really liked this, or no, I didn't like this, or I liked this piece of it. How else, where can I go from here? And that's kind of where counselors come in. So whether that's a certified therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, or even a school counselor, they can really start directing you towards some of those resources. And there's a lot of online resources and webinars that you can start looking at or getting into. And especially now with COVID happening, there was a lot of free courses that were available so that people can start exploring and really understand what they like or what they want to do and what jobs are available based on their interests.
That's a really great tip, Tricia. I think a lot of students have this perspective, and there's so much stress into that post-high school transition of, I'm supposed to know what I want to do for the rest of my life right now when I'm 18 or 17. And they really, how could they know? They haven't had much work experience. They are, or some may not have had any work experience given their academics. Yeah. So it is, college, I think, is also a learning process in and of itself in terms of defining your interests. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and the different types of career inventories help students understand their skills and their personal talents and how that might translate into job sites. So that's a good point.
And another point is your interests are going to change, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think the average college goer changes their major 4 times while they're there. So your interests are going to change, and that is okay. They're supposed to change and evolve, but this is just the starting point.
Yeah, I personally can say I think I changed my major 4 times when I started because I wasn't sure. And, you know, I finally think taking the classes and having those experiences, even if they're work-related experiences, helps us evolve. You know, there's aspects of a job that I like, but aspects that I really don't like. And a lot of employers, I think, and maybe Kiersten, you can speak to this too, if you're a good employee and you're interested in another space, some employers are very willing to transition you to that space.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing that, Kiersten, in your work sites?
Absolutely. Employers are always looking for individuals that want to grow. And I always have to say our students, you know, a lot of them, even though they don't start off as real employees, a lot of them end up being hired on as actual employees because they prove themselves in this training process to showcase, wow, I want someone like this to be someone that's on my team. And then even then, you know, these are the students that are coming every day on time, showing up. They're those devoted, hardworking employees that they wish their entire team were like. Yes. They're kind of those model employees, as we could say. And so really those are the ones that could grow and expand in different skills and interests within those businesses and within those employers.
Great. Another question that was posted is, how can I prepare for job interviews during this time of COVID and social distancing? What suggestions would you ladies have?
Well, I know that for our students and the program that we have, we do a lot of mock interviews and practicing interview questions. So I don't work for them, but a really great site is thebalancecareers.com. And that is all about updating resumes, interview questions, how to answer interview questions, job searching, how to deal with job situations that come up. But they have a very comprehensive list of interview questions. So if you want to prepare, I would suggest starting with practicing interview questions. And a lot of employers now are asking what they call behavioral interview questions. So we've all heard them. It's the tell me about a time when. So really having those examples ready and framing it in a positive light. So yes, this is my weakness, but here's how I'm working on it. Or yes, this is what happened, but here's what I learned from it. So really taking that time to understand yourself and coming up with those examples, because that's really tough on the spot.
It is. And I think a lot of young adults and young individuals who don't have a lot of experience with job interviewing don't necessarily think about those unwork-related situations that could fit that mold. So they may not have had a situation at work, but they may have had a group project or even a family interaction that they had either utilized a skill or defined a problem or worked through a difficulty that can be used in that job interview as a very impressive response. So I think really practicing in advance and practicing aloud helps people And that's something that they would be getting through your programming.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Tell us, ladies, another question is about job coaching. And do we need a job coach? What is a job coach? How can I utilize, or how do I know if I need a job coach to support me? What can I expect? Can you speak to that?
I can definitely touch on that. I always say the question is, would I benefit from a job coach? The question is yes, especially if you're someone with a disability that has never worked before or, been in that employment setting. A job coach can be very beneficial to ensure that you understand what all goes into having a job and keeping that job. With our job coaches, we assist with career counseling, job training and preparation, job development, job placement, and then job coaching and job support. So we really go from the beginning of getting that job to the end of you are independent and how do I keep this job even once my job coach disappears. Our job, even as a job coach, we really can help with building those natural supports in the workplace. So helping an individual while they're working not feel like, okay, I need my job coach to do my job, but can I go ask my coworker or my manager if I need assistance, to kind of build it into their routine where it becomes so natural for them that they could just be successful and they become part of that team. And really, it just helps them in the end to be successful. So I definitely recommend a job coach for anyone with a disability.
Great. Good to know. And another question is how to prepare an individual on the spectrum to manage the social aspects of the workplace, which I think a lot of our clients can do a great job with the technical or the work related, but their frustrations, and I see this even a lot in my adult clients, is a lot of their frustrations with work and their challenges in the workplace is dealing socially.
Yeah. And I think this is, again, something that Kiersten and I can both speak to because we see it from two different perspectives. But for training purposes, we do lots and lots and lots of demonstrations. So almost like role playing. So how would you act? What would you do? What if I did this? What would you do? How would you respond? So it's a lot of demonstrations and it's almost, it's like almost over dramatic so that it's really solidified for them that, okay, so that I'm really seeing this. And then we kind of scale it back so that they get used to the subtleties of human interaction. So on top of lots of demonstrations, we do training on receptive communication. So that verbal piece of, somebody's talking to me in a certain tone or they're using certain phrases. That nonverbal piece of, okay, I'm watching their body language and they're doing this, so that means that, or facial expression, being aware of what they're doing as other people are speaking. So are you showing me that you're listening? Well, you're not because you're fidgeting. So I need you to adjust your body language so that you tell me you're listening. We also train them on expressive. So how do you think you sound? What are you doing to make that person's body language change? Are you starting a conversation appropriately? Are you talking about appropriate things? Are you ending a conversation appropriately? Because a lot of times they'll say, okay, bye. We're in the middle of a conversation. Like, come back here. Like, let's finish it. Discussing social safety. So differences between friends, acquaintances, coworkers, strangers. A lot of our students right now are friendly and they will talk to you, but sometimes it's drawing that line of, okay, you need to talk about certain things with these people and certain things with different people. So knowing when to talk about certain things, and then realistic conversations about others' responses, because some of our friends here will engage in typical stereotypy that autism is known for, right? So that flapping, rocking, certain things that are seen as abnormal, sometimes they need to be made aware of that and say, okay, like, are you okay? Are you feeling fine? Because this is what I'm seeing. But it all comes down to just practice. So that repetitive practice and really helping them to understand the differences in how communication is received and how they can communicate to other people.
Kiersten, did you have another piece to add to that in terms of your employment training?
Yes, because obviously once they're in that real life setting, that's where things kind of change, or, they kind of blank or forget about some of those social skills that they've learned, and you'll spend all this time, practicing. And so really that's where the job coach can kind of come into play to prompt and coach and assist with those certain skills to help make sure that, if their job requires customer service, that they're interacting appropriately with those customers and doing all of those proper social skills that they've been working on during the training portion. And that's the same with, kind of assisting with, we do provide that constructive criticism, but in a way to help them grow and learn from those experiences. And, when we're coaching, we'll take data and do evaluations. And it's not in a way to judge our clients. It's a way to be able to share that feedback. Like, I observed this how many times while you were at work today, when really we want to get it down to 0. So it's helping them understand and visualize what they're doing to help make sure that they're appropriately socializing in the workplace.
Great. And I think when I think about as you're speaking to some of these things and the stereotypical behaviors or stereotype behaviors, is sometimes people do need to have those breaks ingrained or embedded into their workday so that they can decompress in between tasks. And I think that would be something that a job coach might be able to support. Would that be accurate to say? Is how to help them adapt to the environment, but also to help the environment or their employers know these are the needs of this person, and how do we integrate that into their workday?
Absolutely. And even building those accommodations into their work schedules or into their work routines, depending on what the client's needs are, if those accommodations are needed, making sure that employers are aware of it. So these clients can be properly served and, successful.
Looks like we lost Tricia. Hopefully we'll be able to have her rejoin. We're having a bit of technical issue today, so bear with us, everyone. Kiersten, perhaps you can answer this. We talked a little bit about the training process to prepare for employment. I think Tricia did speak about that quite a bit. Is there anything else you want to add? That's one of the questions that's presented, but I think we did touch on that. Was there anything more?
I think the biggest thing that me and Tricia always talk about is our clients have to want to work. They have to be motivated themselves to want to go to work and get a job, compared to, my mom wants me to get a job, or my family thinks I should be working. Because if they don't have that self-motivation or that self-initiative, then they're not going to be successful on the job, because they're going to be the ones not doing what they're supposed to, slacking on their responsibilities. Compared to when we have clients that want to work, you see the difference. It's like night and day. So I think that's the biggest thing, is they have to be motivated themselves, as well as have that family support too.
And I can relate to that with some of the clients we've worked with. I think finding the right fit really can make a huge difference. And some clients that may not realize they want to work, once they're into a good fit with an employer setting, you can see them really shine. And it's really a great thing for them. And they recognize that they really are doing something that they have passion for. So I know in our practice, we try to make those connections with what are those particular interests that are unique to this individual. And is there a job that might integrate that?
Yep. Absolutely. And that's kind of where our person-centered planning model comes into play, because it's all focused based on that client and their needs, their interests, their wants. Because, if a client's coming to us and saying, I want to do retail, like retail is what I want to do, that's going to be our focus. Now, obviously, depending on that client and their needs and their supports, and, if it's not realistic, we will still do everything we can to still make it as realistic as possible. But you're absolutely right on. They have to enjoy what they're doing. Because if they want retail and you put them in fast food and they wanted nothing to do with food, it's not going to be successful.
Difficult. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. What are some of the accommodations, Kiersten, that you see individuals on the spectrum experiencing, or what might they expect in the workplace?
So accommodations really vary, individual to individual. Everyone's accommodations could be different. I think the biggest thing that we've seen is a lot of visuals. Visual schedules, visual timers, task lists, pictures, make timers, adjusting schedules and timesheets, set schedules, I think is a huge benefit for individuals on the spectrum, because then it builds that routine for them. So I think those are the biggest accommodations that we've seen. And most employers are very accommodating and understanding with these type of accommodations. Another accommodation too would be a job coach. As a job coach, we serve as an accommodation for our clients in being able to help build all these other accommodations into place for them.
Yeah, so that's really about the uniqueness of the situation as well. But that's a good thought about the visual schedules and the timers and the reminders. The other thing I think of when I make recommendations is maybe planned breaks and how to manage those breaks and where can they go during the breaks, having a safe spot at work if they're feeling overwhelmed or a safe person to talk to if they're feeling emotionally overloaded and they need to problem solve. And I think that can be really helpful too.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's an important question, and I don't always know how to answer this. Should I tell my employer that I'm on the spectrum? Or in other terms, should I tell my employer that I have a special need or a disability? And when is it the best time to disclose this information if I need accommodations in the workforce?
This is always a big question. From our end as a job coach, since we serve as an accommodation, if we attend an interview with you, you're usually upfront disclosing. And this is something we discuss with our clients at the beginning during their intake process of, are you comfortable with disclosing, and having us attend interviews and coach you and everything like that. But I think the answer to your question is, if you need an accommodation, the answer is yes. You absolutely want to disclose. With applications nowadays, a lot of them will ask at the beginning, do you have a disability? And you can't lie on that because you're, at the end, they have that little section. I agree that everything I said was true. And so you have to be open and honest on those applications. But as well as, say you go to the interview on your own, you're able to interview, you get the job, but you're starting this job and you're starting to have issues. That's where you really want to evaluate the situation and see, is this a good time to tell my employer? Do I need those accommodations in place? And that's kind of the nice part too about having a job coach, whether we serve as that upfront disclosure or we're kind of behind the scenes. We can kind of work both ways with our clients. So to kind of help assist them that if they don't want to disclose, but they get into that job and, things start happening, that they can still have us in the background to support them. But I think the biggest issue we've seen is, say clients get a job, they choose not to disclose, and they're there 90 days and they're having issues and, they're going to be fired. Well, now they're like, now I need you to come in and assist me and help me save my job. Well, now the employer feels like you were hiding something from them or not being upfront with them overall in the whole process. So really, it's beneficial to make that decision, whether upfront when you're applying for that job and interviewing for that job, or within those first couple of weeks of that employment.
And I know a lot of people have really struggled with that decision to disclose any kind of special need because they're afraid that they might be excluded from the job, even unfairly, but it may deter the employer from considering them. Which leads to the next question of, what are employers benefiting from for having that in the, an individual? How does an individual with autism, for example, benefit the workforce or the workplace?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, it is always scary, that stigma of, if I tell them, they're going to, judge me and I'm going to have this label on me. But really, if that employer, you disclose at that interview and that employer is just not open, then you probably don't want to work for them in the first place. That's always the one thing I always tell my clients, if they feel discouraged after that, it's like, no, what, then they're probably not a great employer to work with anyway. But the benefits of hiring, individuals on the spectrum is they are probably the most hardworking, devoted employees. Like I had mentioned before, they are the ones that are showing up on time every day, getting the job done, going above and beyond. They're trustworthy. They're meeting the needs of their job or more. They're the ones that are, challenging and creating a new environment for those workplaces. I've had employers tell me that they've changed their work environment. They've literally changed the way their entire staff looks at their staff in the world and just how everything is. So those individuals, it really is a benefit for an employer, and any employer would be would be great to hire any of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of devotion and commitment, very rules focused and compliant. So I think it is definitely an advantage to the employer to have a very dedicated and hardworking employee. The last question that I have here is, what are customized jobs, Kiersten, and how do people find these jobs?
Yes, so customized jobs can also be called job carving. And job carving involves creating and modifying and customizing a job that can be successfully performed by an individual while still meeting the needs of an employer. Carved jobs are definitely not as common as they used to be. It used to be where you could go to an employer and, do a task analysis and say, they've got, 2 employees doing this. Well, I can have 4 people doing this, and creating multiple roles within roles. And, COVID actually has kind of been a benefit for this, because COVID has kind of actually been creating jobs or recreating that job carving. But instead of, as a job coach doing it, employers are doing it. So employers are looking at, like a good example would be like TJ Maxx and Marshalls right now have created or carved jobs for people just to clean carts. People come in and shop and they wipe down the carts, and then they, give the cart to the next person. But unfortunately, I wish job carving and, customized jobs was still common. But I think if it's the right employer and they're open and they're devoted to, inclusion and diversity, it's never a bad thing to ask. It's not as common as it used to be, just due to restrictions with payroll and corporations and all of those like nitty gritty background things. But like I said, it's never, depending on the employer, you just never know what could happen.
Thank you for that. Well, is there anything else you feel like you want to add? I am delighted to have you. I'm sorry that we lost Tricia in process here, but I know she also, wonderful job, ladies, for sharing all these wonderful resources for us and families. How can people reach you? And we will be posting both Kiersten and Tricia's information on the Facebook page so that you can have access to some of the resources they shared, as well as their contact information. How can people reach you, Kiersten, and what's the best way to contact you?
Usually the best way to contact me is my email. I will make sure that I provide you with my email. I will also give you my work cell phone number. I'm always willing to talk to families who are, are transitioning out of high school or transitioning out of transition, and they're kind of worried of, okay, what's next, or what's that opportunity? Or if they're looking for a program like ACC where they can get that training from Turning Point, and then also get that community-based training and that employment piece from Parents Alliance.
And what is the site or contact for you for Parents Alliance, Kiersten?
Parents Alliance, you can reach me. It's KLIRA at parents-alliance.org. And my cell phone number is also 630-449-2707.
And we'll certainly post Tricia's information as well. Sorry, we lost her. Thank you again, ladies, to both of you, and for joining us today. I'm sure people will get a lot of valuable information out of this, and hopefully please follow up if you have any additional questions.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.